Hello there, Bliat. I know that for whoever is actually watching these videos, you are gonna question yourself why the hell am I doing a video about this show? I usually have a schedule in which once every 3 weeks I make something related with Uma Musume. So why is this not a video about that? Well, what happens is that I'm a huge Black Clover fan, and as such, I decided that, I wanted to know a little bit more about it now that I have had a couple months since watching it and it finished. What? So now I'm kinda like here trying to figure out why didn't I knew about that before? I kinda knew that it was like 3 chapters left to the ending, but I thought that this was like a semi-annual manga, so it came like a big surprise for me. Black Clover has always been a very controversial anime and manga because of multiple reasons. The first one, as everyone should already know, is the voice acting early on. In the anime, it was really rough. A lot of people hated it, and even though I didn't particularly hate it, even that I usually do not take into consideration a lot the fact of all of this bad voice acting, even I was like, okay, this may be a little bit too much. But then it's like, I quickly forgot about it. So it's like either he got better or something. But the biggest complaint that people usually has with Black Clover is not related with that at all. No, instead of that, the big complaint that most people has is with the story itself. The story of Black Clover has a great setup that everyone can agree on that. It has phenomenal build-up in basically every single chapter until the big payoff happens and there's nothing. Now that is what most of the time, most of the haters and most of the doubters of the franchise or of the anime have quickly gone to say that it was bad from the show. And I cannot fully blame them. It has had some moments in which I personally thought that they could have done better, either the author or the anime studio, but overall I still really enjoyed it. And in fact, this video is gonna be more like a pure me saying things that I like about Black Clover, other than the fact of the ending by itself, because I think that the ending is kinda not as bad as so many people is saying that it is. Now the thing with Black Clover is that it's a show completely different to evaluate compared with others, especially for me. You see, I'm someone that is very capable of differentiating between good and bad shows, and it's also very capable of discerning between them and justifying why they are good or why they are bad. However, with Black Clover has been completely different for me. Black Clover is genuinely one of the very few shows that I truly cannot say if it is good or if it's just that I truly love it. This show is completely different. It steals your heart. Every single chapter that happens, and every single chapter that passes, and every single episode of the anime that passes, you feel closer and closer to this weird group of characters. This group of weirdos, the Black Bulls especially. Also the characters from other places, like the Golden Deers, and basically every single character that is in a kind of protagonic or antagonistic role for the most part. Like Mars early on, Julius Novachrono, a lot of the different elves, and more recently, the Spade Trio of villains. All of them have been kinda good for the most part. Even if they're not inherently great, you can feel closer and closer to them. And alongside the Black Bulls, that are a group that is very underrated, I think that they have made a great synergy throughout the entire of the story. Even if none of them, or for the most part, most of them are not particularly insane. But most of these characters would be impossible for them to be as good if it wasn't because of the fantastic protagonic role of Asta. Yeah, there's other secondary characters that can kinda shine, mainly Yami. There's also Noel, but is mostly Yami out of the pseudo protagonists that are not really the main protagonists. But yeah, overall, Asta is the heart and soul of this story, and it's very obvious how he is as a protagonist and how he helps the story. He might not be the smartest, he might not have any type of convoluted plan to try to advance. He might be trying everything with just brute force, but there's one thing that you cannot deny, and it's his unwavering decision of trying to become the Wizard King with everything of what that means as a person. He will try to save everyone, he will put his body on the line in every possible circumstance that is required. And I think that he encapsulates perfectly what a theoretically stereotypical main protagonist of a shonen should be. He is one of the, if not the best example of it. He might be clumsy, he might be dumb, he might be even dense at times, but undeniably, everything of what he does well, he excels at it. And I really love it because of it. But not only that, but also the fact that he actually works fantastically for the entirety of this show because of that. Every single character feels touched by Asta. Every single one of them is willing to do things that otherwise would not be possible, thanks to the fact that Asta is there, either supporting them, or maybe not even supporting, but just his mere presence, because he has affected every single one of their lives for the better. And with that thing in mind is when we reach the final chapters of the story. Yeah, I can talk long and long about every single individual arc and saga, the Elf saga, I can talk about the Spade Kingdom arc and saga as a whole, but let's just talk about the ending because that's what we are here for. We are not here to hear a very long explanation of what happened in the chapter 27. We are here for the final. Over the final chapters and over the final full arc of this show, we see what actually happens with the entirety of the plan of Lucius Socrates. His plan was actually just turning everyone in theory into a do no evil type of characters, do no evil type of people. A, in theory, great ideal, but with a lot of cracks. Alongside them, the biggest one being the fact that there will be no will. Everything would be just the way that he intended it to. Nothing with personality. Nothing with soul. And as such, obviously, everyone else was against it, because it doesn't make sense. It is the eternal question or even philosophical thing of, would you be willing to give away all of your freedom for safety and happiness? Or would it be the other way around? You are willing to risk your happiness as long as you're free. And I think that the final arc encapsulates that in a very good way. And we see the battle constantly with these ideas in mind. How Asta, being the completely rejected of society, still is willing to make good, is still using his own freedom to help others. While Lucius doing the exact opposite. He being in the highest of highs, he having everything of what he could have ever asked for to actually try anything, yet using all of that to strip others from their own free will. And I love that dichotomy for the most part. And the battle starts in a very good way because of that. The whole thing of the angels encapsulating all of that is also fantastic. How every single one of the secondary villains of this arc are all characters that are very close to certain individual characters of the Black Bulls or individual characters related with the protagonistic group. I truly love it. I think that is a very well thought out idea that sometimes kinda happens to crack once we reach to the final length of the arc. Because yeah, with the manga having to switch from the Shonen Jump to the other side of things, now Tabata had way less time to actually do what he could have wanted to do. We do not know if this is exactly what he wanted, but we know that he had less time than before. So, as such, I think that definitely affected in one way or another the end product of the final arc. Most of the final battles felt kinda rushed or very short in a certain way. The first half felt kinda fine, kinda, but the second half felt really rushed. And that is a problem, especially because the main actual battle of the secondary ones usually goes at last, and in this case it was with the last battle of Yami and Nagt. I really was hyping up that by myself, and I think that most of the community was doing it as well, yet it felt kinda rushed like most of the second half battles. And after all of that is when we get the actual final battle, the battle of both Juno and Asta against Lucius. And I have to say that I understand, it's very divisive, but overall I think that it was a solid battle. It's not up to the level that I would have hoped for, probably not. But I genuinely still believe that it was a good overall battle. It felt like an actual threat. You can feel like he has the opportunity to win. Lucius, his plan was actually very intelligent. Even if it's very obvious that it has some cracks once you think deeper into it, it's still a cohesive and coherent plan. Something that is very difficult for most of the other mangakas of the Shonen Jump in recent years. Why the hell is everyone so bad at making manga? Obviously I could have made better. Obviously. But now seriously, I think that overall it felt logical. The thing with this battle was undeniably the fact that it had certain moments that were kinda off. Some moments would have been better off not existing or better off being changed slightly. Maybe not one particular moment that I can say, but overall is the whole feeling of that final battle maybe needing some adjustments. Not because it was particularly wrong in anything particular, as I'm saying, I personally don't feel like any individual moment was bad, but there are certain things that definitely could have been better. And with that in mind, they finally defeat Lucius, and we have what is the final 3 chapters of the whole story. We have the final sacrifice that I truly love, that I'm not gonna spoil, because if for some reason you are watching a video about the ending of Black Clover and you have no idea, you might not want to hear it, so I'm not gonna mention the name, but the sacrifice, I think that it was very satisfactory, I really liked it. And then we have the final chapters of what is the final decision of who is gonna be the actual new Wizard King. Now this is the moment in which most people actively started hating the ending, because it kind of felt like, why are they deciding it like this? And I kinda understand, and I kinda agree. I honestly believe that it makes no sense that they decided to make a battle between Asta and Juno to decide who is gonna be the new Wizard King. I honestly do not understand why they decided to do it like that, why Tabata decided it, but honestly I don't think that it was as awful. Granted, I would have liked it more if they decided it in a fair and square way, and ultimately the decision was who ended up being the Wizard King, but I think that this is still okay. The battle made sense. At the end of the day, this is what this story has been all about for basically the entirety of it. It has always been an Asta versus Juno. Always has been. Even if they never fully battled against each other, it was bound to happen. And they were like that for the entirety of it. And I understand why the ending decided to put them like that. I truly understand it. The battle in and of itself, I think that is kind of relevant. I think that most people, if not everyone, knew what is gonna be the ending of it. I think that it was more of a finally watching it happen rather than what it was actually the final thing that it was gonna happen. Everybody knew that Asta was gonna win. I think that that was very obvious. And I think that that is kind of like you know, taking away a little bit of the final hype that you could have had. But I see it more like a victory lap type of thing. Like they took what it was something inevitable and they make a full chapter to praise it prior to the actual ending. Speaking of which, this is when we go to the final chapter, in which the entire of it is just basically the Clover Kingdom and basically most of the main cast of characters showing a couple years later. I think that it was, I don't remember right now if it was just a month or years. I think it was years. And we see how most people actually develop. And I kinda like it with some of them. I really love the part of Gray and Gosh getting together. It felt like they had to be together, so I truly love that they actually did it. Of course, there's the thing of Charlotte. I hate it. Why the fuck is Charlotte with that guy? Why? I don't know. But let's try to not talk about that. Because other than that, for the most part, it feels like a normal ending. It feels like most of the characters ended up where they had to end. It didn't feel out of place. Maybe not, once again, as satisfactory. And especially that part of, you know, the sacrifice in which everyone ends up surviving, or most people ends up surviving. It feels like kinda tacky, kinda like, okay, why are you not sacrificing anyone? This is the end of the show. Finally, you can kill someone there. You can stop giving them free passes, but whatever. And we finally see the last pieces of the entire of it, and we see the final panel in which Asta is finally the Wizard King, and the story ends. Now, as a concept, you might not like it. I understand. There's a lot of things on the ending that I truly do not like either. Like the whole drawing that made Tabata such a great mangaka, especially in the Spade Kingdom arc. It felt kinda off in a couple of different spots in the last part of the show. I will assume that that is because, for basically a similar reason as to why he had a very big hiatus, because he had certain things with his health. Because of that, I'm not gonna take points from him. But yeah, it feels kind of like a shame that it didn't went as hard with others. There's also certain individual moments. Once again, I'm not gonna mention any more Charlotte, I promise, but oh my god, that was so horrendous. Oh my god, that was so bad. And as I'm saying, he should have eliminated certain characters. Like Mary Elena had no business existing afterwards. There's a couple of characters that actually had no business being alive. You could have killed like half of the Black Bulls, and that would have ultimately feel logical within the story. But whatever. Let's just talk about what I personally believe, that this was not that bad of an ending. It has its flaws. It is not a great ending. I totally understand it. But, and here's a big but, this is Black Clover. This type of ending, even if you do not like it, is quite ironically the whole essence of Black Clover as a whole. You will have this huge setup. You will have this huge build-up with Lucius, with the whole new nation, with several different characters. And ultimately, you will have a payoff that might feel underwhelming at times. But you kinda like it. Because at the end of the day, Black Clover grew up in your heart a lot. This story might have its flaws. This story might not have the best cast of characters, might not have the best protagonist, might not have the best villain. But every single one of those pieces individually grew up within each other. Every single one of them managed to be better than what you anticipated once you started the show. And even if they are not the best, you end up loving it. Or you at least like it. Kinda like this ending. Maybe not the best. Maybe you could have made a lot of things different to make it an actual good ending. Yeah. But this is Black Clover, once again. Did you like it? Yeah. You are not here with the ending because you hated the show. Despite the fact that this ending was very similar to the ending of other arcs, especially the Elf Saga. But, as I'm saying, whether you like it or not, Black Clover was built on this. Built on maybe not having your expectations 100% fulfilled, maybe not having what you wanted, but making a satisfactory ending that you can undeniably like. Even if it's not what this franchise deserves, it kinda feels like what you wanted to see. You maybe hate the idea of a story in which there's no deaths, but at the end of the day, you love the characters. There's other shows that have managed to pull off full-on characters and the entirety of the cast being alive. Maybe this one doesn't fall into that category of feeling logical, but yet again, I think that is fair, because this is Black Clover. I would not accept it in other shows in which the characters feel way more disposable. Every single one of these characters grew up, both in the story and in the people that watched the story. And every single one of them has just something that is being happy to see that final panel of Asta being the Wizard King. Because at the end of the day, that's what Black Clover is all about. It's not about a fantastically, insanely crafted, great story that it is. It's not about the failed fulfillment of payoffs, which is also part of it. But it's how everyone, all characters, but also the people watching it, grew up, felt closer to the story, and was happy to ultimately see the final goal. Because what matters at the end of this story is not the individual high points. It's not, oh, this could have been better. But rather, every single one of these arcs, chapters, being one step closer to fulfilling the goal. And that goal being finally fulfilled. Whether you liked it or not, I truly liked it. Because I did not watch this story to have a fantastic build-up, which I ended up having. I was having just a fun time, which I had. And seeing what I wanted to see was something that made me happy. And that thing was finally being able to see Asta turn into the best wizard on the world. He had no magic, he had no powers, but he managed to exceed his own limits to finally turn into a Wizard King. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you all enjoyed it. If you want more content like this, talking about the endings of different mangas that I have made already 2 in the span of like a month after getting nothing, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. It not only helps the channel to grow, but it also helps me to make you make actually better content. And I actually do not know what the hell did I just said, and I am gonna keep it as a blooper. Fuck me. Regardless, once again, I hope that you all enjoyed it, and see you next time. Bye. Bye. Bye.